Canada's economy, that it could take a hit of $139 billion from floods, storms, droughts by the year 2050. And this has been outlined in a report which is based on a new climate-based analysis that predicts, and the report is titled Economics. It is published today by GHD. It's a global engineering and architectural service firm. And the report looks at the economic impact of water disasters in 7 other countries, including Australia, China, and the United States. Now, the emergency event database compiled by the Belgium-based Center for Research on the Epidemiology of Disasters has said that the economic loss in 2021 from droughts, floods, and storms worldwide totaled $224 billion, compared with an average of $118 billion just between 2001 and 2020. So that's a massive difference there. So in the 20 years, the economic losses was $118 billion, and that's US dollars. But just alone in 2021, based on droughts, floods, and storms worldwide, it totaled just now 1 year in the staggering amount of $224 billion US dollars. Now, the magazine's a person who wrote the article, Don Holland, he says that there's a lot of reports that count up when it comes to insured losses, as well as physical damage after major events, like, you know, one of the examples of the atmospheric river in British Columbia, and that was that last fall. But what he talks about is that the actual loss of economic productivity hasn't been taken into account the same way. And this report outlines that in terms of the shock that it will create in terms of when it comes to supply chain, prices, and everything in between. And that's, of course, in terms of the flooding of the 2021 BC floods, where it cut off the rail and highway links between the country's biggest port in Vancouver and the rest of Canada, and the disruptions that stress supply chains that were already in a stressful manner due to COVID-19, and such as raising prices, slowing down production in factories, that could also get worse as a part of what might be, you know, with the droughts and flooding caused by climate change. The report also predicts manufacturing and disruptions will take the biggest hit from water-related climate disasters between now, 2022, and 2050, showing that an estimated $64 billion in losses, or what you would consider 0.2% of the total manufacturing economy for the year. And when it comes to droughts, well, when it comes to the damage it can cost is during the restrictions of what it would cause in the industrial production, as well as floods, storms that could cause direct damage to buildings and machinery that would essentially have a power outage and interrupt supply chains when it comes to factories alone. If you recall, the torrential windstorm that ripped through across southern and eastern Ontario in the month of May this year, it damaged power grids in Ottawa very badly, that parts of the city were without electricity for more than 2 weeks. We've been seeing that happen more recently and more frequently, and energy and utilities will face an estimated $14 billion in losses, either through direct damage or to power grids and production plants, and the reduction in power when it comes to the output as hydro dams as well as nuclear plants because of the low water levels. Droughts is also often seen as the only real risk to agriculture, and due to extreme droughts, well, it could be an important issue in terms of how it affects supply chains when it comes to food. In Europe specifically, a near record low of the Rhine River came to a halt for the marine traffic along Europe's most important shipping lane. It's the link between Belgium and the Netherlands to Germany and Switzerland. And when it comes to other governments, well, the government of California, Nevada, and Utah, and parts of western United States are reinforcing water rationing amidst what they're calling as the worst drought in more than a millennia. And Lake Mead, well, that's the biggest reservoir in the United States. It's down to 1/4 of its capacity. when it comes to the agriculture, well, as the fifth sector that was analyzed in the report, it said that Canada is estimated to lose about $4 billion over the next 28 years, and that also threatens food security. So very scary to see all of that. And of course, when it comes to heat waves, well, earlier this month, China had a massive heat wave that prompted its government to force some of the factories to close down to be able to ration power as the low river levels cut power outputs at hydroelectric dams. And of course, fast fashion and retail, well, that is a way that consumers have been, grabbing up when it comes to e-commerce and local stores, but they're heavily reliant on water-related infrastructure for that supply chain, and they're extremely exposed in the event that there's a damage to supply routes. And it'll be the second most affected economic sector, and with the estimated losses there are about $26 billion between 2022 and 2050. So those are some very alarming figures. When it comes to the average temperature on Earth, well, it's already more than 1 Celsius above pre-industrial times, and the climate has already changed, so leading to more frequent and more severe storms, flooding, droughts, as well as what we're seeing that happen more frequently as of times. And the costs, of course, are very high, not just for people's lives, but when it comes to the economic factor.